Hello and welcome to TCG Buzz, and I have a great episode for you guys today. I am joined by Dan, aka aDrive. He is a PokeTuber known for his excellent streams, his amazing Nuzlocks, his constant content of Pokemon leaks. Great stuff. I've been watching quite a lot of your Generation 10 coverage recently. Been really cool. And you are also the owner, CEO, creator of Elestrals. A lot of you have heard of this game. You know it. We've talked about it before on the podcast. It is maybe the biggest of the non-huge corporate sponsored games that has come out in the past couple of years. And it's a great game with great LGS support. Welcome, Dan. Hi. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, well, thank you so much for the intro. I appreciate that a lot, Jacob. And everything you said was pretty accurate. Yeah, I do the Pokemon content stuff. I've done that for over a decade. And about 3 years ago, I decided to create Elestrals as a trading card game. And now we are branching that off to become a multimedia IP. And so far, it's gone pretty well. So it's an exciting time for Elestrals. And I'm really excited to share more behind the scenes of what we're building. And I think one of the things that you mentioned already that really resonates with me is the fact that we are a fully independent team. We don't have any outside funding. I've never taken a penny from anyone outside of crowdfunding Kickstarter. So we are, a true grassroots company that's really focused on making the best game we possibly can.
And speaking of Kickstarter, that might be one of the things you're most known for. I mean, collectively between the 3 Kickstarters you've run, you've raised over $3 million.
Yeah.
That's nothing to scoff at, right? Your first one was over $1 million, then you had Clash, and the most recent one is for Elestrals Awakened, your actual 2.5D monster catching RPG. That looks incredible.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I think when we look at what we've done on the crowdfunding platforms, it's been incredible. And that's really, a testament to the community and, people turning up and sharing and being excited about what we're building. And I think we built a great trust now with the community as well about the things that we're putting on the table. And our most recent Kickstarter success, we actually just passed the original Kickstarter total, which was a really cool milestone for us. And again, branching into a totally different part of the business for us will give us an opportunity to introduce people into our trading card game, introduce people into the world of Elestrals in a big way. And I'm excited to just extend upon this universe that we're building and allow people to go on an awesome adventure.
Also, I'm sure it's everyone's childhood dream to make a video game, right? Uh, and I think that's actually maybe starting to become a trend with a lot of your larger YouTubers and streamers. Not only are you making an excellent video game with your team, you've got examples like Alpha Rad with his Pokemon Too Many Types and Mario Mon and stuff getting a lot of attention. And do you think that's something we're going to see more of?
Yeah, it's funny because the first thing that comes to mind actually is the direction of AI. And I hate that that's the case. Just as a disclaimer, Elestrals uses no AI in our art. All of our card artists are legit. We don't use any AI for the programming of the game outside of the programmatic artificial intelligence that an opponent would have. But all of our art is legit. But when we look
I
at,
respect that a lot.
Yeah, it feels like every day I'm seeing more and more video game generation coming from that. And I think that it's going to be a reality that people are going to have access to those tools and bring their ideas to life in a generated way. I don't know how I feel about it ultimately. I would love to put the pause button on that whole thing personally, but nonetheless, I think it's reality. But
yeah, we can't put that genie back in the bottle.
I don't think that genie's going back in. I fear for what's to come, but I do think a lot of creators are dabbling in this area. I think there's a lot of opportunity for creators to I think this, Jacob, and a lot of people watching. Half the battle is getting the thing that you're creating in front of people, right? Like creating something awesome is a big part of the battle, but equally big part of it is making sure that people know that you created something awesome. And I think when you have someone who is able to build an online following, like you mentioned, AlphaRad, it solves one of the biggest mountains that many game creators face. You could have the best game in the world, but if no one knows about it or no one knows that it exists, then that doesn't take away from the project for your own self-satisfaction, but it obviously inhibits the ability to grow it at any sort of a scale. So I think naturally there's a progression there. I think one of the things to keep an eye out on, though, is, and this is no slack on anybody, like people are able to do whatever they want to do, but are those creators actually being the ones who are making these games, or are they hiring a team to kind of handle everything and they're putting their name on it? I do think there's a difference. I'm not saying one is better or worse. I think it's a reality that we are going to be looking at more and more of. And I think that's just something that, the people watching should always keep in mind. How involved is the creator? Or are they just kind of slapping their name and their brand on something?
Well, I guess I want to ask you then, how involved are you? Like, Elestrals Awakened seems like a very big project, and you're a man of many hats already, right? How do you, not only what are you doing for Awakened, but I also want to know, like, how do you find people to help you with that?
Yeah. So the trading card game is the part that I have the most involvement in. I write all the cards. I do have a team, but I do write pretty much every card that exists in the trading card game. So I'm very involved there. In the RPG, I take more of an oversight position. I don't have any programming skills, so I had to hire a team to come in and actually program the game. But I'm making decisions in terms of the lore, the storyline, the attacks that are taking place. One of the things I love to do is decide where the Elestrals are going to show up throughout the game. So creating their encounter tables. So I dabble in a lot of different pieces, and I oversee the whole project, obviously. But the RPG is a project where I have a team that's been built out because we need that. Like, you know what I mean? I was able to create the trading card game, a lot of it on my own shoulders by like writing the card effects and designing the game. With a video game, it's a little bit different because, again, I don't have the experience to be able to program it myself. In terms of finding talented people, my vision from the beginning has always been I want to find people who are passionate about the things that I'm passionate about, because I believe that having that passion and being in this industry and seeing what everyone else is doing and saying, I could do this different or better, and taking that and running with it, I think that that's so important. And was like a founding principle for Elestrals in the first place, was like me wanting to create this, but also looking in the ecosystem and saying, like, none of this is really satiating, my desire to play a trading card game. Why don't I build what I would want out of a trading card game and see if people want to be a part of that with me? So almost every hire we've had up until, I would say, relatively recently has just been community driven people who are already in the community, who were excited and we felt that they can help us build this into something more. That shifted a little bit as the game and the company has grown. Now we are starting to additionally supplement with industry experts. And that's like kind of the transformative part of the business, where now we're starting to bring in kind of the middle level management of the team that has been doing card production for 10 years or has done community management for 10 years or whatever it may be. These are people who have been in the industry in adjacent businesses or in other card games or whatever. And now we're bringing them in to come help us, maybe make less mistakes or make better decisions, or provide a better product for our players or whatever it may be. So it's been really fun to see it come together. And I think one of the things I take a lot of pride in is our team, because the people that work with Elestrals, I think everyone wants to be there. I can't think of maybe one person in the 3 years that has quit, right? Like right. That's a pretty cool thing to be able to say. It may be 2 or 3, but only one person's coming to mind right now. So, it's not, people want to be on this team. And I think we're trying to build something really special, and everyone who's a part of it knows that they're a big piece of this, because we are still, we've got a handful of people working on the game, but we're a relatively small team, and we're still very much so in the early stages of where Elestrals will go. We're very much a startup. So,
you and I have talked about the types of things I do before. I very much do a lot of support work for games. I work for a game publishing company. I do this kind of stuff. It's my day to day. But a lot of the volunteer work, if you will, I do is helping those single people out there who say, yeah, I want to make my own card game with blackjack and hookers, and a lot of those times those people have aspirations to be at the point where you are right now, or higher. Actually, a lot of people think they're going to be the next Magic the Gathering, right? But that middle period, they go from make a trading card game to question mark profit, right? That middle section, especially when you're building that team, is the hard part. I always say to people, making a game is the easy part, because it is between marketing and staffing. And I mean, how many people out there who think they can do what you do don't know about taxes, right?
Yeah.
What
Oh
are
man.
some of those growing pains that you've had growing from, yeah, I'm going to do this as a thing that I wanted to do, to, oh, we're a company?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question, man. And I think, man, I don't know if we have enough time to go through the amount of mistakes and challenges that we've encountered. It is astronomical. I think the first thing I'll say is that, I had built a business prior to this. I had built a few actually. None of the scale of what Elestrals is. Everything I had built before this was like pretty much me as a solo person and building ecom infrastructure around it. So my content creation career, I had a merchandise line. I did a couple different things like that, but it were very small teams. 2 or 3 people, just partners working with me. This has been an entirely different beast, and I will be very honest and say that when I started the Lestrals, I had no idea what I was ultimately getting into. Right?
You
I
never
had
do you?
yeah, no, I don't know if you can, right? I think there's like I'm the kind of person where I just get an idea and I just put my head down and run with it, right? And that's what a lot of like the first 12 months of Elestrals was me just like every day just working on this cool thing that I was building. And then I got it to a point where I thought I could share it with people. And then it kind of took on a life of its own. And then once we did our initial Kickstarter, to me, it was like, I need to make sure that I deliver this game. Like I just promised this game to all these people and we just set records on Kickstarter. I need to put everything I have into this. So I actually quit my content career to focus on Elestrals, which was a pretty big sacrifice, right? To do all that.
For sure.
But the amount of challenges and roadblocks and hiccups along the way, it is incredible. I mean, we're on 5 different print manufacturers. We just switched to our 4th different fulfillment center. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg of the challenges that we've encountered. I mean, it's insane because I think what a lot of people don't see is in a vacuum, I'm creating a game and I'm putting it out there for people. But there's so many things that are part of this business that are in some ways out of your control. I'm someone who's very quick to say like, all right, I'll take the blame for this, or this is, my decision.
Tariffs.
Yeah. But exactly that, right? Tariffs were a big one. I mean, that was a 6-figure loss for our business because of tariffs that came out of nowhere, right? When we look at, fulfillment, for example, for me to go to 4 different fulfillment centers is insane. It's not cheap. You got to move all your stuff from one place to another. We're talking about a lot of pallets of stuff. That's not inexpensive. But it's like the growing pains, right? Because you get a fulfillment center, they promise you the world. They do a good job for the first few months, and then they start getting other clients, and all of a sudden they can't keep up with you, and you outgrow them, and then you got to move. These are real problems that every business is going to run into, right? Like this is nothing new, but there was no world that I had any context that I was getting into all of this, right?
I've had those issues with shipping out games that did 4 digits on Kickstarter. I can't imagine what it's like, when you're in the millions.
Yeah, it's been wild. And like I said, you got to rely on good partners. And we have like a new rule where if we're going to partner with another company at this point, we're the only one allowed to be the startup. They cannot be a startup anymore because we've learned that like we can't be figuring out our business while someone else is trying to figure out their business, right? Like that's a really good lesson for anyone out there. Pay a little bit more, get the guys who are the experts. It'll save you the headaches. You try, not that we try to cheap out or anything, but it's one of those things where you say, oh yeah, they'll grow with us, but if they can't keep up, then you don't have a raft in the ocean. You're sinking. So, those are the things. And man, there's so many pieces. Like the tariffs are a big one. Manufacturing challenges that you send every line item or spec that you need, and then you get the product and it's not how you asked for it, and you're like, what do I do now? Like I can't reprint this. Like
we had a quite successful product that we were very excited to deliver a year or 2 back. That there was that huge like port strike. So our stuff sat on a boat in California for like 2.5 months, and we're just like, nothing we can do about that, guys.
Yeah. There's so many different things that can come up, but I think the thing that like keeps me going is that every time I get knocked back down or get knocked down, I get back up. I've kind of just, it sounds a little, I don't know what the right word is, but it maybe sounds a little crazy, but I've kind of just gotten to the point where I'm expecting the next thing to go wrong, and it's going to be okay. We're going to figure it out. We're going to get through it. This is just what it is to run a business like this. I think that there's no utopia where everything is just smooth sailing. if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to grow a business and grow a game like this, you're going to war every day is what it is. Like every single day you're going to war to make your game a success and to bring it to people and keep your customers happy and to build it. You just got to be ready for that. Like you just have to.
I think you have to be a particular type of crazy to do the kind of stuff that we do, making games, making content. Like you have to have something wrong in your brain to make you want to do those types of things, because it is a hard thing. There's scrutiny, and I'm talking like I'm the same level as you. I am not. Let me be clear. Like, hey, I've had a YouTube video hit 1 million views. Like
that's significant,
yippee,
man.
right?
That's the real deal.
But it is tough, and it's one thing. So many people. I just talked about how so many people want to make their own video games. So many people want to make their own card game, right? So many people want to be a streamer, right? Not to get too philosophical on you, but what do you think is the core difference that separates the chaff there? What's the thing that makes people keep going with it?
I think there's a few pieces that come to mind for me. I think the idea of you getting knocked down, getting back up, I think is really key. I think that there needs to be a level of tuning out whatever the noise is and just doing it. I think that that's like a lot of people's problem. I know when I look at my own decisions and I run into a roadblock or I find myself procrastinating something, it's usually because it's a little uncomfortable and I'm putting off that feeling of discomfort. And I think anytime you put yourself out there to do something like be a content creator, or stream, or create a product and things like that, a lot of your reservations or hesitation is like, what if I fail? What if someone doesn't like me? What if my friend thinks this is stupid? And like the reality of it is none of that matters. None of it matters. Like you have a life, you got to follow the things that you want to follow. And like I could get 100 comments on a video, 95 are positive, 5 of them tell me I suck. Who should I listen to? Our brains will want to listen to the 5 that tell you suck, but you have to focus on the 95 positive or the 5 positive or whatever it is. I'm also a big believer. This is an Alex Hormozy quote. I'm a big Alex Hormozy guy. He really summarizes this by saying, do enough volume of something that it would be unreasonable for you to not succeed. And I think that is the biggest takeaway. If you watch this podcast, you take away one piece of advice, I think that should be the piece, because I mean, at the end of the day, I think volume can negate luck. And that's what he preaches significantly. And I think it's true. And when I look at my content career, where I grew to, 1 million subscribers on YouTube or 600,000 followers on Twitch or whatever it was, the thing that I did that was different than anyone else is I showed up every single day. I showed up every single day for 10 years straight, and I never stopped. And that consistency was, I think, what really was the difference maker.
It's not just not only coming back to it over and over, but that drive to improve. It's one thing to go, yes, hello there, this is my Let's Play of Call of Duty Black Ops 6 Part 39, right?
Like and subscribe.
Right. Versus that drive to improve and do new things and, catch new people's.
And that's one more thing I just want to mention on this topic, because I think it's so key. You kind of joke about the poor quality and stuff, but the only way that you're going to learn the things that you need to improve on is by sucking and doing it first. Just do it. No matter what you do right now, if you're sitting at home thinking, I want to make a card game, I want to make a stream channel, I want to do it, just do it. You're going to suck at it no matter what. Just do it. Get the first 100 sucks out of the way. And then by 101, you might have half a clue of what you're doing. Like, exactly. You got to just go through that process. It's just the reality of it. And I think, again, that's, I think, the biggest hang up for most people is they get kind of stuck in that, right? You do a couple and then you stop. I think I've recently learned about the distinction between motivation and discipline and how key that distinction really is. Motivation comes in short bursts and it can be burned out very quickly, but discipline is what allows you to repeat actions successfully over and over again. And it's discipline you should aim for, not motivation. Motivation is going to go away. And I know, as someone who tries to lose 10 or 15 pounds every few months, man, motivation goes away pretty quick. Discipline and building good habits is going to be what's going to allow you to take things the way you want to go and have the consistency needed to be able to find success in a world that I think there's so much opportunity out there on the internet for all sorts of different e-commerce ideas or influencer related things. I mean, the possibility is really endless or limitless it is going to continue to get more crowded, and we're going to be competing with the robots. But I think that that could be a competitive advantage for a lot of people. If you're a real person who has a real story to share, I think you could find a lot of success in social media. And I think that it's just about that consistency.
With discipline, there's no one out there who doesn't struggle with it at some point, right?
For sure.
You can lie and say you're one of those. I get up at 4:00 in the morning every day, and I do the face bath with the special water.
Yeah, of course.
But everyone struggles with it, and this is kind of a weird thing to say, but I'm sure you understand this and you'll agree. Like, one of the things that actually helps a lot with that, being a part of a team and having people who rely on your work actually is a big motivating factor. It's one thing if you let yourself down. It's a whole nother thing if you're letting the people who rely on you down.
For sure. I'm a dad. I got 2 kids. I have a wife, and for me, there's a lot of oomph in my life that I want to deliver for them. And then, as you mentioned, my team, like, a lot of people put food on the table because of Elestrals. I got to make sure that I'm doing my job, so that way I'm not letting them down too. I have a big responsibility, as I mentioned with the first Kickstarter. When I walked away from my content career to focus on Elestrals, I felt I had a huge responsibility to these people who supported my project. I couldn't let them down. I needed to make sure that I delivered on the promises that I said I was going to deliver. It's very important to me. And again, Shady and I joked about this. For those who don't know, Shady is a co-owner of Elestrals, another content creator. We joked about this, that, because people were skeptical about the RPG initially. And we're like, guys, we're putting our entire career on the line here. Like, if we release a game that sucks, it's going to follow us for the rest of our lives. You know what I mean? Like, I can't put out sucky things. My whole life is on the internet, man. Like, I need my reputation and my word to mean something. If it doesn't, then no one's going to watch my stuff. No one's going to care what I have to say. I got to have that.
Or even
trust,
worse,
right?
People still do.
Well, that's, and it's crazy because I think about some celebrities that do some crazy stuff. I'm not even talking like you clickbait a video. I'm talking like, domestic abuse and stuff. And if
Ponzi
people seem
schemes,
to forget, dude, mind blowing. Not that people can't, change or become better, but there's some wild stuff out there, man. But either way, I try to make good on the things that I say as best as I can. Sometimes there's things that are outside of my control, but at least I try to be transparent about those things too. So that way, we can maintain the trust that we have. I think that's so important, especially building a game. I want people to feel that they can approach our game and know that, we're not trying to pull one over on them or anything, right? Especially in a day and age where, like you mentioned, so many people are trying to do this thing.
Rug pulls, man.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, going into the Elestrals TCG initially, one of my biggest focuses was like, I have to make sure people don't think this is a rug pull, and they know that this is a real game. Because some people are going to think that this is like my cash out on YouTube, and that obviously wasn't the case. But there were videos made that, like, this guy is trying to cash out. He's rug pulling. This is him taking advantage of his audience. And I'm like, no, I'm just trying to make a game, man. Like, what are we doing?
Right. This was never my intention, but a weird part of my career has been that I've kind of become, I don't want to say that. That's a really cringe way of putting that. Let me rethink how I say that. An advocate for responsibility and like treating your player base, your customers correctly. Almost a watchdog in some cases. I've talked about some bad actors in our field, right? And as I'm sure you know, especially in the trading card game space, in the time period that you launched, there were bad actors everywhere, right? The thing when I was, really looking into Elestrals that interested me, that, perked up my ears, wasn't the big dollar amounts you raised. It wasn't how high quality the game was. It was that you clearly had a vision that has clearly played out of sustainability. That's the number one thing I saw, and I said, okay, this guy's legit, right? I mean, you've already released your 6th booster set when, the average game dies at set 2, right? You've got set 7 on the way. You're doing some teasers for that. Looks very cool, right? That's, what's it called? Sunstrike?
Sunstrike, yeah. It's
very cool.
It's going to be good, yeah. I'm very excited.
I'd like to talk a little bit about sustainability in trading card games? Because I think you've done some really interesting things. I mean, obviously, you've got like an excellent local game store program, maybe the best in the entire industry. And you've got a lot of like great stuff you've done for your players, like a player reward system. And obviously, that's all for sustainability. Why does that matter?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's one thing to put out a game that's fun or collectible, but you want to build community. That was always the focus. When I look at the ethos behind Elestrals, a lot of the inspiration came from coming out of the pandemic and wanting to build something that could bring people together in person. That was a huge pillar of the initial creation of Elestrals. So when we have this opportunity to work with local game stores and to work on building communities, and we can bring people together and see the impacts of that, that is just a huge piece for us. So it's about building the systems that not only incentivize people to want to be a part of something like that, but reward them for doing so. I think the reward ultimately is the third place. It's a place that's not your home or your work, that you can hang out with people and do something that you like to do. The reward is the community that you're spending time with. But it can also be some really cool shiny promo cards too, right? And I think that that's something that we can do that will, again, continue to uplift those players, show them they're appreciated, show them that their effort is not in vain. It's very much so a part of what we are trying to build. Because for us, for this whole thing to work, right, for this whole equation to work, I got to make a good game, right? I have to market it well, and then I need people to care about the game. And then I need them to go to their stores and tell the stores that they care about the game so they can buy the game from the stores. And then the stores will carry the game and profit off of that. And then everyone is winning, right? The whole equation wins. The player gets the satisfaction of community, a fun game to play, a third place. The store makes revenue off of it, brings traffic into the store. And then we're able to produce our game and make money off of producing a game and building a player base. So that's the equation that needs to work. But if any of those pieces are broken, the whole thing falls apart, right? So we have to have those systems in place to uplift that. It's taken us some time to get there, but I think we've done so in a way that is much more efficient than a lot of the newer card games that have come out. I think that's a testament to some of the team members that I brought on. I brought on some members of my team to run organized play who had involvement in other games, and we had some expertise there. And they were also fans of the genre. They care about trading card games. They care about what the other games are failing at, or what could be done better, or what players actually want. And then we have those conversations with our players of like, what do you think of this idea? Or how can we improve upon this? So, keeping a trading card game afloat in this climate is very difficult, is the reality of it. It is incredibly difficult because the amount of competition coming into the space is so big. We don't have nearly the funding or ability to advertise at the same level as like a Riftbound, for example. But I try to tell myself and remind my team that the rising tide lifts all ships. The more people that are coming into the trading card game ecosystem, that is more opportunities for us to show them that my game is awesome, right? That Elestrals is a great game worth exploring. And we're trying to utilize those opportunities while also ensuring that our existing player base is feeling good about what we're building, right? They're excited. They feel a part of it. They feel rewarded and incentivized. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pieces of it, but we're just trying to create an awesome game. And again, making sure that we have all those chain links in place to ensure that the players are happy, the stores are happy, and we're able to do what we're doing at a high level. If we can complete that equation, then it creates a really harmonious situation for everybody.
Yeah, and with that, like sustaining your player base and is one thing, getting new players is another thing. And those are areas that so many games trip on. Even a lot of the big players. Like it's something that Bandai maybe intentionally struggles with. Their strategy is not to make one game that lasts the test of time. It's to make a game and then make a new game 2 years later because people are getting bored of that one, right? You're clearly not doing that, right? If your goal was to make it Elestrals, like we were talking about earlier, a cash grab, you would not be investing more into the brand with things like a video game, plushes. In fact, one of the first things I asked you out of curiosity when we were first talking was, so you do plushes. Are those like good or not? Because we've always wanted to do them just for kicks, right? Do they make money? Right?
Yeah, we actually lost money on plushes last year, or this year rather, because of tariffs. So, but that's one of those things too, where like plushies were never meant to be like a business revenue driver. Like, would I like to make money off of them? Sure, right? We're putting effort in. I don't want to lose money on something, but it was always for us, like the vision of Elestrals was always to build a brand, right? We may have done things a little differently. Typically, games will start with an IP and then they build the trading card game based off an IP. We built the trading card game first, and now we're building the IP around that.
Especially
and I think
these days.
Yeah, it's going to be really harmonious when it all comes together. But you know, I'm proud in a way to say this because I've never paid myself a bonus, right? I pay myself a salary now, but I didn't pay myself for like the first 2 years of working on this. So for us, it has always been about the bigger vision of creating Elestrals and investing back into Elestrals. Anytime we have a good month or a good 2 months, it's like, all right, what can we do? Who can we bring on the team to make this even better? Who can we support more? Where can we enhance our processes for the long term? The vision has always been
product. Can you do? I mean, I want to talk about products for a minute because I'm so blown away by just the sheer number of things you do. You have your own custom binders. You have a subscription service. You do your own custom mystery boxes. You fairly recently started your like create a card program thing.
Yeah.
Like those things are the types of things that people dream of doing, and you're doing them, right?
Yeah.
Now, are those things often like plushes where they're just for the sake of things, like to do it because you're passionate about the brand, or are they things that actually engage new players, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think
returning players.
I think the plushies definitely engage new players. They bring value in that regard. Maybe they don't create a tremendous amount of revenue for the business, but they do attract people. I think the best way to answer this question though is to look at like, are you building a trading card game or are you building a brand, right? And to me, the vision was always to build a brand. It was always to build intellectual property that had these amazing creatures that I was creating that people can enjoy. And the more avenues you give people to enjoy them, the more, I guess, robust the whole picture is. So, like, at the end of the day, could I run the business selling binders? No, of course not. Could I run the business selling playmats? No, definitely not. In fact, we do a lot of this stuff we don't really make a whole lot of anything on by the time you factor in shipping and compliance fees because you got to get everything safety tested. It's like some crazy stuff. But what it does do is it takes someone who's never seen Elestrals before or an player that's endemic to the space and say, not only can I get a starter deck, but look at all this other cool stuff that goes around it, right? And I feel like that's so important because if we were just, here's a booster box, here's a starter deck, and that's what we did every single set, I don't think we would have nearly the interest level from other people when you see the whole world that we've built. And I think that that's where the RPG is really the kind of the secret sauce catalyst in all of this, right? We obviously have the proof on Kickstarter now, which is great. And the trading card game remains our top priority as we continue to build Elestrals. But the RPG gives us an opportunity to show this world in a totally different way. And it's going to make every one of those creatures and on those cards mean that much more to somebody. When you go on an adventure in 2 years with Sluggle as your starter, you kind of, I get Necrough vibes from you. I'm curious what your starter would be. But when you go on that adventure and then you look at that card, it's going to be a different experience for somebody as opposed to now looking at the card, right? In my opinion, we'll see how it all plays out. But I feel pretty strongly about that. So
I find it really cool that you, not only is it your Elestrals characters, but you actually translated from the TCG to gameplay in the RPG really well, I think, from what I've seen so far. Like the fact that you've incorporated your system of how resources are done from the TCG. Like you said earlier, most people start the other way, right? So I think it's really interesting that you kind of reverse engineered what could feel like the starting point of this franchise from the TCG. I find that super interesting.
It's been really fun to kind of fit those puzzle pieces together, and it's kind of the story of Elestrals in general is like, when I started this, it wasn't even in Greek mythology, right? Like we didn't have the divine gods of Greek mythology. We use Zeus, Poseidon, etc. in our game. We didn't have those things when I first came up with the idea for Elestrals. It kind of just fell into place as I was developing it. And as we're developing the RPG, we're saying, oh, how can we pull in these ideas that are already in the RPG and make them unique things, that are already in the TCG and make them unique in the RPG. So a great example of this is we have a couple mechanics, Daze and Enrage, our mechanics in our trading card game that just got introduced. how can we take those mechanics and turn them into battle mechanics in the RPG? And I already have the answer to that, but that's the kind of stuff that we're doing. And it's going to create this really, really cool, cohesive feel when the RPG is finally done, where you're going to say, oh, I know that word. That's in the trading card game, or vice versa. Or a player who plays the RPG for the first time sees their guy gets dazed, and it's equivalent of a flinch in Pokemon. My guy's dazed. I can't attack this turn. Oh, now I'm playing the trading card game. Oh, I'm going to daze my opponent. That means they can't attack me. Like, there's a lot of really cool synergistic approaches that we're going to take that is going to just, again, put this whole picture, this whole puzzle piece together. And I think it's going to be incredible, honestly. I think it's going to be a really big deal for Elestrals and for our players.
Now, was that something that you pre-planned? I'd love to talk about how far out you pre-plan things, but was that something that was pre-planned, or was it you're working on the video game and you're like, oh, we need something, and this is a happy little accident, right?
Everything's a happy accident, man. I'd love to say that all of this has been like meticulously thought out, and I've got that big bulletin board behind my camera here. Nah, man, honestly, like I'm winging it so hard. I figure things out as I go. A lot of things have fallen together in a really great way. It almost feels like poetic sometimes how things fall together. It's like, wow, that's like a perfect fit. How did we not see that sooner? But I think the key to that is, like, again, I go back to what I said, 20 or so minutes ago about, like, you got to do enough of something that it would just be unreasonable to fail. You have to outpace the luck, right? Luck, you can remove the variable of luck if you put enough output out there, right? If you are spending enough time thinking about something, or bouncing ideas, or brainstorming, or spending that energy into creating something, eventually you'll stumble into the things that all kind of make sense. And it's been pretty magical in a lot of ways. Like I said, I wish I could say that everything has been meticulously planned, but a lot of things have just kind of fallen together. And that's just kudos to the great people I have around me who help provide ideas or bounce ideas off of me, or tell me that my idea is really bad, or whatever it may be.
I've got a fun question I just wanted to ask you. This is not something I was planning to, but with Elestrals Awakened, don't take this the wrong way, right? But you come from the world of playing lots of Pokemon ROM hacks, right? So I'm sure there's a lot of experience that carried over there. Obviously, this is not anything remotely like a Pokemon ROM hack, but you've done your time with many of them. You've seen other people create, a monster catching world of their own, and in many cases succeed, many cases fail. I'm sure that helped with things along the way, right? I've played many a Pokemon ROM hack in my time. The one rule I have in my life is I can never go back to Emerald Rogue, or I will never get anything done again. But I want to ask, there's a very common trope in that scene of, congratulations, you beat the champion in Pokemon Maroon Delta fart, right? Here's my OC character for you to fight, Do Not Steal, at the end of the game, right? Who's got all level 100 competitively viable Pokemon to make me look super great. Are you going to do that?
Yeah. Oh, man. That's a really good question. I think that I will say that I have my character modeled for the game.
All right. That's good enough for me.
I'm not the kind of person where, like, I feel like I need my name everywhere. Like, in fact, if you look at Elestrals as a whole, the aDrive name isn't really on it unless you dig deeper, right? Like, if you go to a store,
I noticed
by
that. Like, when I was looking at the Elestrals YouTube channel, it takes a bit of digging to know that you're involved.
Yeah, and maybe that's, like, not the best approach. Maybe I should throw my name on it more, but Elestrals to me was never about, like, how do I make aDrive bigger, right? Like, that was never my focus. It was always about, how do I create an awesome game that could be its own thing? Like, yes,
stand on
I
its
had
own, right?
the kind of advantage of being able to reach more people because of the aDrive platform, but, like, I wanted to make a game that could be its own thing, and I just happened to be the guy who's coming up with it. What I will say is, we did a big marathon. We had a lot of conversations with people over the Kickstarter for the RPG, and I think that the endemic, excited Elestrals fans would love the opportunity to face off against Shady and myself in a post-game environment. So I think we're going to deliver on that. And I think that we will have some sort of mechanic in the game equivalent to our Stellar Charm, which will enhance your chances of getting a Stellar. And I'll say that the idea we have now, and it's very much so subject to change, is that you'll have to challenge me with a full stellar team. And if you beat me, then you will obtain the stellar charm. I think that that is a very, very cool and
That sounds
flavorful
super
way.
good, man.
Yeah,
I
to
really like
integrate
that
things.
idea.
So
Yeah.
I think we're going to do something like that. Shady, I don't know what you're going to have to do with him, but you'll have to figure that out. But I do think that there's a likely scenario that us, the two of us, and maybe a few other friends are going to be, littered throughout the post game or even the main story. And I want to touch on one thing too that you said with the Pokemon fan games. One of the things that I want to highlight is I think that the people who make those Pokemon fan games, they are incredible, an incredible inspiration. First and foremost, some of these games are phenomenal, and obviously they're utilizing the Pokemon IP, which helps. But they do some really impressive things, and it served as inspiration for me. And one of my biggest focuses for 26 is to play through all of the best Pokemon fan games because there's a tremendous amount of inspiration and excitement and just beautiful craftsmanship that has come from that community. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for the Pokemon fan game community, and it's certainly been an inspiration for me. And I appreciate immensely the opportunity to be able to cover those games and share their creations with people while I'm also creating my own thing. It's a little different, but there's still, again, a tremendous amount of inspiration and value because the reality of it is some of those fan games, dude, in my opinion, are like better than the main games, man. And like, there's a lot of really cool ideas that come from that. And I'm just trying to make the best game I can. So if I can find some inspiration or some ideas of things that I enjoyed playing through a fan game, then, why not integrate it into the things that I'm building,
And, you said earlier, the rising tide raises all ships, right? And that's, how I live my creative life. I support everyone out there who's making content that, of any type, making art, making games, making anything. I do my part to help those projects. And even if it's something I don't personally like, I'm like, yeah, you go for it, man. Right. As long as someone's not scamming people, right? And that's such a great thing. And I think when you're out there also putting stuff out, being a creative, it really gives you a different perspective on that. Like, I am no artist, but like the art world is famous for being, incredibly supportive of each other. And I want that to be something my industry takes up the mantle of and does as well.
Yeah, you actually just brought up a really interesting moment that I want to reflect on because I think it's really cool to share. I've kind of approached the content space as like a lone wolf for a long time. I've done collaborations and stuff, but I generally have kind of stuck to myself for the majority of my career. And getting involved in the trading card game space has been very similar. I haven't really, I'm not reaching out to the developers of big games and asking for advice generally, right? Maybe I should be, but I haven't really been doing that. But I recently had an opportunity to network with another game designer, and it was a really enlightening experience for me. It was a gentleman by the name of Emilio who is creating a game called Cryptid Camp.
Yes, I know him.
Yeah, so I don't know what the public perception of Cryptid Camp is, but what I will say is that I was very impressed by how open and willing he was to impart his knowledge to me and help me in a moment where he could have not given me the time of day is the reality of it, but he was very open to having conversation, and we shared a lot of great information, and it was a really collaborative process where I shared some of the struggles and wins that I've had manufacturing, and he did the same. And his background is he worked on the original MetaZoo. So he has a lot of experience that I simply don't have, or maybe, don't know about, or whatever it is. And it was a really great opportunity. I've had,
For anyone who doesn't know, one of my regular co-hosts, Kevin, was the head of R&D for MetaZoo before Emilio.
Okay,
so
cool.
They know each other quite well. We've talked about him a couple of times on the podcast.
Cool. Well, hopefully sentiment around Emilio is good, but I had a good time talking to him. But it was really good. And I think I've always done my best to share the things that I've learned, especially to aspiring creators. There's a card game creator, Chaos Galaxy, I believe is his YouTube name. He's building a trading card game kind of on YouTube. And, I reached out to him and I said, hey, if you ever have any questions, let's chat. I'm happy to help. And we did a similar type podcast where I just kind of helped him out, gave him some thoughts and ideas and some advice and stuff. So I'm happy to share that wisdom, but I've never been necessarily the recipient of it, right? Generally, you know,
If I can share, I have
yeah,
a personal anecdote about that, because the reason we're doing this right here, right now, is because you reached out to me a couple months back, because I am the head mod of r/TCG on Reddit. A very thankless job, might I say. Uh, and you reached out saying, "Hey, I make Elestrals. I want to do an AMA." And the reason I was like, "Oh, awesome," was your specific goal you stated was, "I want to talk to other indie devs and share some advice."
yeah,
Right. And that's my bread and butter. So I'm like, yes, absolutely, let's do this. We did the AMA. I'll probably put a link in the description. It was a great time, and I think some great questions were asked. And I actually had to, when I was formulating this episode we did here, I had to be like, okay, what was not already asked of you?
Yeah, that was a really great opportunity, and I appreciate that. And again, like, this is a very, very hard thing to accomplish, right? Trying to create a game that is played by hundreds, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, whatever it is, to be able to do that is very difficult. Like, I don't want to beat around the bush here. It is, sometimes I like to refer to it as doing the impossible, because it really feels that way sometimes. So if there's an opportunity that I can share some of the mistakes I've made, because boy, oh boy, like I said, I have made so many mistakes. I mean, so many mistakes. But you learn from them and you try not to make them again, right? That's the key. But if you can skip that process and learn from somebody who maybe did it already, I think you're saving yourself a lot of time and trouble. And that's a big focus of mine going into to 26, is extending my network and trying to learn more from people who are in adjacent businesses or who have done some of this stuff before. Because I have found that in the few instances, I mentioned Emilio, but in the few instances where I have looked for that kind of help, people have been very, very receptive to it. I think you'd be surprised when you put yourself out there and you're willing to admit the things that you don't know, right? Like, that's a big thing. Like, there's a couple things that I know really well. I know some things really well, but there's a lot of things that I have no idea what I'm doing. And if you can admit that and be okay with that, and be willing to digest and learn, I think you could put yourself in a really great spot to not only improve, but to put out something that's better. So,
Yeah. Not to make this a plug fest for my own stuff.
plug away, man.
But I mean, we're YouTubers. We're used to it. One of the things that I felt was so missing in like the trading card game, like indie board game, tabletop game scene, was a good place for exactly that. Meeting other people who have shared experiences and being able to be like, so here's what didn't work for me. And I felt that for years, right? And I created a Discord server called Tabletop Aces, link in the description below, ding ding ding, right? That is a like networking guild for indie game devs to just talk and chat and ask each other advice and play test together, etc. And one thing I want to share, that we've talked a lot about mistakes, right? I launched that at first in either late 2022 or early 2023, and it was one of the biggest mistakes I ever made. I made one really bad decision with it, and it killed the project, which was I made it a paid subscription service. That's what I was doing at the time. It was dumb. It was a terrible idea, and it failed, and it actually got quite a bit of negative backlash. Okay. And I stepped away from it for like 9 months, but then I was like, man, this is still really bugging me because this service needs to be there. I know I'd use it, and I know a lot of other people who could gain benefit from it. And I relaunched it instead of, getting butthurt about making a mistake and getting some negative feedback. I relaunched it, and now it's for free. And now it's thriving to the point where I don't have to micromanage it anymore. The community there manages themselves and supports each other, and it's awesome.
That's actually a really cool story. I'm glad you shared that, because I think it shows a lot that, like, again, back to the theme of like, you get knocked down, you kind of just have to get back up. And like, if you're expecting smooth sailing, I just think you have the wrong mindset. And that was me. Like, I thought that I'm going to sound crazy. I thought this was going to be easy, guys. Like, I thought when I started the Elestrals, this was going to be, not that it was going to be a cakewalk or that I was owed anything or guaranteed anything, but I had no idea what I was getting into, right? And
you know, I could have told you, no, this is not going to be easy. This is going to be one of the hardest things you've done in your life. But
it's
at the
by
same
far,
time, if you had
by
someone in
far.
your ear like that who's saying, yeah, this
You
is
know
gonna
what?
be a
Then I probably
nightmare.
wouldn't have done it, right?
Right.
Like, I think that's part of like the craziness of it is like you have to have there's this chart that shows like uninformed optimism, informed optimism, uninformed I don't know what it is, but or informed pessimism, uninformed optimism. There's this like flow chart that you go through in a business when you like have this great idea, you see another thing working and you're like, oh, I can do that, I'm gonna do it. And then you do it, and then you realize, wait a minute, like, hold on, this is not it. And most people quit there. That's where people quit, right?
Nobody knows how much of an idiot they are like an expert, right?
Yeah. I would say so. And it's funny because I remember having similar feelings in the content space too, like when I got started there too, right? Like it's just you don't realize how hard it is until you're like actually in it and really doing it. And it's just a matter of like you got to just keep pushing or you quit and then that's the end, right? That's a lot of people do that, and that may be what someone else does, but you got to kind of just push through. And again, I now go into things just expecting something to happen, so that way, but it not in fear or worry or scare. It's just it's not going to be perfect. Like I just got to figure out what's next and then move on, right? That's all you can do. So
yeah.
That's the nature of the game.
My last question for you to end this episode, and I'm going to hit you with one of the most cliche questions of all time.
All right.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years? This is a job interview now.
Where do I see myself in 5 years? Oh man, I see myself. Is it a Friday afternoon, or is it just in general?
In general. Where do you see Elestrals? Where do you see? Are you gonna make a new brand? Are you gonna
no
refocus on content creation? What do you think the cards hold out for the future for you?
We're gonna have our cartoon, man. Yeah, no, I mean honestly, like for me, 2.5-year plan is really focused around developing the RPG and continuing to uplift the trading card game and all the systems around it. I think when we look in the 5-year plan, there's definitely a vision, and hopefully sooner than 5 years, but there's definitely a vision to have a cartoon and an animated series. At that point, I think we'd be looking at probably a potential second game for the video game space. Again, that's putting the cart before the horse in a lot of ways, but these are the things that we think about, right? Like, my goal right now is I need to focus on the chunk of time that I have in front of me of developing this game and continuing to make our trading card game awesome. But if we do look a little further out, I think there's a tremendous opportunity for us to continue to expand the brand and the IP.
When are the NFTs coming out?
What's up?
When are the NFTs coming out?
There's going to be no NFTs. No, I am no NFTs, no AI art, none of that. I've kind of drawn, the line in the sand. We're not doing it. It would be great if I can sell an NFT for like $1 million. I know some TCGs have had success with that. That would have been great. That would be wonderful.
Guys, buy $ stellar coin right now.
That would be really nice. Unfortunately, we have to kind of do it the old-fashioned way here.
Hard work and investment.
It's crazy. Crazy. Yeah, but no, there's no other projects, right? Like for me, I'm gonna continue to do my content. I recently kind of started content creation again, and I'm very excited about it. I think there's a lot of great ways for me to reconnect with my old audience and kind of build upon that and be able to share Elestrals in a really cool way. And then continue to develop Elestrals. There's no, that's it. That's my life. I'm going to focus on these two things and my family and giving them the best life I can. And that's where I'm going to be. So I'm pretty content there.
Well, thank you so much, Dan, for joining me. And you know how it works. I'm going to be plugging away everything. Elestrals is such a great game. It's so cool. And your company vibes are immaculate. So like everyone go support Elestrals, give it a shot. It's a great game. And thanks for talking to the public and like sharing your own experiences.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to do so. And I thank everyone for listening in. And I thank you, Jacob, for the time and your thankless work over on Reddit and beyond and helping facilitate these communities. And as you said, go wishlist us on Steam. That's a big one. It's free. That's a free one. You got to do that. You got to wishlist us on Steam. Great way to support. If you want to check out the game, pick up a starter deck at our store or check our store locator, find a local game store that carries starter decks. Our starter decks are incredible. Great way to start the game. We load them with staple cards. We have packs in there. It's a really great onboarding experience. You can see if Elestrals is for you. But I think if you like trading card games, you want to be a part of something special and feel that your voice can be heard, because it is. I'm in that Discord chronically. Then Elestrals could be the game for you. So I hope you give it a shot.
All right.